He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, my friends. I am Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. As I indicated last evening, we were going to take this Benghazi matter. Credit where credit is due. Outstanding reporting at CNN. And we were going to send it national, viral, and that's exactly what's happened. And there is a huge cover-up going on over what the operatives were doing, the CIA operatives in Benghazi. A huge cover-up that persists even now. But I wanted to mention, you probably have heard all day, there are alerts all over the world. State Department issued worldwide alert to U.S. citizens traveling abroad, warning that al-Qaeda and its affiliates are planning terrorist attacks that may materialize before the end of August, suggesting that North Africa and the Middle East are the focus of the threat, reports CBS News. Well, I don't plan to be in either of those locations anytime soon, but this is serious in terms of what they're hearing out there, because I have talked to a number of people in the know, and while they don't have a specific threat to a specific place, the chatter, the activity going on is pretty substantial, as they say in the intelligence world. The alert, which expires August 31, 2013, urges Americans traveling in that region to be aware of their surroundings. And it comes amid a heightened security concern for embassies across the region after the State Department announced Thursday that any embassy normally open on Sunday would be closed for the day, with the possibility of a longer closure. And the announcement was linked to al-Qaeda, a plot against U.S. diplomatic facilities in the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, and so forth. Now, I read this, I listen to this, and I think to myself, we're going to have an army that has been downsized to the smallest point since prior to World War II. Even though we're massively collecting information on American citizens, it'll have almost no use when it comes to something like this. Our resources, to me, are just being misallocated. Our priorities in this country are just upside down. What should be growing is not. What should be shrinking is not. So I guess we'll see. The 21 facilities in 18 countries announced that they will close on Sunday. Our embassies in Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Libya, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Afghanistan, Algeria, Bangladesh, Mauritania, Sudan, and something I can't pronounce. Now, isn't it interesting? We're going to close our embassy on Sunday in Israel. And I say this because this little tiny Israel is surrounded by these maniacs. Is surrounded by these, fill in the blank. These pre-human terrorists. And this is going on, and at the same time, John Kerry and Obama are pressuring Israel to make some kind of deal, which clearly won't be in Israel's interest, with the Palestinians. Oh, they're not terrorists, Mark. Of course they are. Do they shoot missiles into Israel? Yes, they do. Do they align themselves with Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood? Yes, they align themselves with any terrorist group they can. And let us not forget, the PLO started under an individual who was aligned with Hitler, with the Nazis. So I read this, I think about this, and folks, what I'm trying to say is this is very serious, this threat, the information we're picking up. And that tiny little country that is surrounded by all those other countries has to deal with this every minute of every day. And yet we pressure them, give up more territory. They don't have much territory to give up in the first place. I just wanted to point that out. We're not going to spend all day on this. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Our resources are so heavily focused on nonsense. Hey, I have an idea. Let us nationalize private sector phone information, private sector server information, and that way we can check patterns of... It's not how you do it. That's never how you do it. That information exists in the private sector, and if we need it, we get it under authority of the court or after the fact under authority of a court. But there are many ways we can address these things without wasting billions and billions of dollars chasing ourselves. It's just absurd. As has been demonstrated time and again, whether it's Boston, whether it's Fort Hood, whether it's on and on and on, fill in the blank again. And as far as Benghazi goes, I think we addressed this rather fully yesterday. I spent an hour and a half, almost 2 hours on it, the breaking story on CNN that nobody was covering under Jake Tapper's reporting and one of the other reporters there at CNN. And I'm hopeful that our focus on this, when people were ignoring it, will help further expose what's going on. And I think it was picked up pretty heavily today, and that's important. I also notice there's a lot more criticism of Republicans now among my fellow talk show hosts. This is a good thing because they used to be very snide about it. When I would point out that the Republicans are killing us. They're not taking a stand. They're getting rolled. And they have to stand up because we don't have anybody else to count on when it comes to Congress, per se. And for months and months and months, I, single-handedly, have been putting pressure on Boehner and Cantor and McConnell and all the rest of them for months and months and months. And now finally others have figured it out. A little late, but better late than never, as they say. Welcome, welcome. But let's look at this Obamacare matter. I have this article from yesterday I didn't get to. But listen to the headline from the Daily Caller. This all affects you. It all affects you. Obamacare hurts parents of special needs children. President Obama's Affordable Care Act, writes Patrick Halley, known as Obamacare, will make it more difficult for parents of special needs children to pay for tuition at special schools and to purchase medical equipment, according to a new report. More than 30 million Americans place money into a pre-tax flexible spending account, an FSA, through their employers to help save emergency funds to pay for their family's medical costs. Obamacare institutes a brand new $2,500 cap for FSAs, which will make more money taxable and could raise $13 billion in taxes for the federal government over the next decade. Well, that's why we exist, not to put money aside for our kids, not to put money aside for special needs. No. For the government. Before Obamacare passed, there was no limit to how much money you could put into your FSA at work. Ryan Ellis, tax policy director, said for the Americans for Tax Reform. Most people don't. But the one group that does put a lot of money into their FSAs, parents of kids with Down syndrome and parents of kids with physical disabilities. Currently, if parents send their kids to a special school, the tuition is considered a qualified medical expense that can run through your FSA. So if you have a kid who needs a durable piece of medical equipment that's not covered by insurance, you can run that through your FSA. If FSAs have any limits before Obamacare, they were determined by the employer. The IRS had nothing to do with it. But Obama created a new $2,500 cap. So that's not going to affect most people who just put in enough to pay for eyeglasses or dental work. But those people with children with especially difficult and expensive special needs, they're going to take it in the neck. They're going to take it in the neck. Why? This damn bill is a poison in this country. It's a cancer in this country. This has nothing to do with more people on health care, taking care of this group or that group. Do you realize how many people are going to suffer as a result of this damn law? Nothing compassionate about it. It's all propaganda. Oh, here's another one. Investors Business Daily. I pulled this from some time ago. An unintended consequence. Oh, all these unintended consequences of Obamacare. Centralized big government sucks. Wait till we get to the economy. An unintended consequence of the abomination that is called Obamacare is the dropping of wives from husbands' employer-provided health care insurance. It's a de facto war on women. Obamacare is filled with grinding mandates. One of them requires that children remain covered by their parents' health plans until they're 26, when their parents' insurance provides dependent coverage of children. The government calls this protecting young adults, but insuring children long past the day they are dependent on their parents exposes companies which will bear the added costs of paying the inevitable higher premiums, and in some cases the extra expense could be significant. So at many companies, something has to give. And quite often the rational response to rising health care costs is to drop spouses, more specifically wives, from insurance plans. Sometimes it's the husbands who must go, but benefits experts have confirmed to MarketWatch that those who are kicked out of plans tend to be women. So there's another unintended consequence of this cancer called Obamacare. Wait, I've got more. I've got more to celebrate. The Washington Examiner, the great reporter Paul Bedard from yesterday. The administration has popped the bubble of hope some small businesses had that switching a part-time staff would let them escape the high costs of Obamacare. The Small Business Administration created a website to explain to businesses that the government will simply tally up the number of part-time employees. Firms have to determine if enough hours have been worked to essentially create a full-time equivalent. Some smaller businesses had thought they could get around under the 50 full-time employee cap that activities Obamacare that activates it by cutting full-time workers and hiring more part-time workers. Several business groups have been warning smaller firms of the provision in Obamacare, but many were confused and waiting for the administration to finally explain the so-called employer mandate calculation. While it's nice the administration has launched a new website, employers have been scrambling since the law was passed 2+ years ago for answers. Well, now they have an answer. So here's an example from the SBA website. You ready? Example, Company X has 40 full-time employees working 40 hours per week, along with 20 part-time employees working 15 hours per week. The 20 part-time employees are counted as 10 full-time equivalent employees. In other words, they add up all the hours. They add up all the hours, and if it adds up to a full-time equivalent, boom, you're covered by Obamacare. So special needs kids, wives for the most part, small businesses, this is just the beginning. I mean, I could go back and it's just endless. And then I read this morning when I got up. I really don't even get up because I never go to bed. The Politico. The Hill gets Obamacare fixed. The move came today, Friday. I know many of you have probably heard a lot of this, but you haven't heard it from me yet, and I've been hammering on this baby for weeks, and I want to address it as soon as I return.
Mark Levin.
Remember, folks, those of you who listen regularly, remember we caught Boehner 5 or 6 weeks ago and Harry Reid trying to figure out a legislative fix. These phrases on Capitol Hill are pathetic. A legislative fix to their little Obamacare problem. Remember we caught them? Remember how we drew outrage to this and drew attention to it? Well, these people are sleazier than... I mean, they are so lucky that we don't storm that building. I am not encouraging it in any respect. But you want to see the difference between we, the people, and them? And listen to how Politico writes this. And the media in Washington, D.C. are celebrating this as important and defending every damn piece of it. John Bresnahan and Jake Sherman. Lawmakers and staff can breathe easy. Their health care tab is not going to soar next year. The Office of Personnel Management, under heavy pressure from Capitol Hill, will issue a ruling that says the government can continue to make a contribution to the health care premiums of members of Congress and their aides, according to several health sources. Now, let's stop right there. This Obamacare law, it's not a law at all. It's just like Jell-O. First of all, they were issuing waivers to a couple thousand of their best friends. Remember that before the election? Mostly unions. Union bosses, what a bunch of suckers. You union members, they sold you, I tell you, for nothing. And they're campaigning for Obama. They're donating to Obama. They're demanding Obamacare, and a year later it's oops. Well, oops, too late, dummies. Capitol Hill. They pass a law they don't even read, which affects every single one of us, every family member, every friend, every neighbor. I just read you 3 scenarios right now, and there are more about what's happening out there to our fellow Americans. And people are being dropped from their health care. People are desperately looking for new health care. They don't even know what the hell a state exchange is. And here we are, in anarchy, in chaos. And what is Capitol Hill worried about? Their own health care under the bill they passed. So what do? They go to Obama. What does he do, the imperial president? What does our soft despot do? He tells his agency, the Office of Personnel Management, forget about the law. Do an interpretation. Just interpret it differently. And they interpret it to subsidize themselves. More on this when I return.
The only constitutional lawyer you can see today. For free. No appointment necessary. Just call him at 877-381-3811.
Mark Levin has made the case in numerous New York Times best-selling books, Men in Black, Liberty and Tyranny, and Ameritopia, that the principles undergirding our society and governmental system are unraveling.
This book is what we do, what I do behind this microphone, what we discuss day in and day out. And it answers the question that you ask. Mark, what can we do? Well, this is my answer.
The Liberty Amendments, new from Mark Levin.
When you read this book, The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic, it gives you hope. It gives you some inspiration, and we need it. And that's why I wrote it.
In the new book, The Liberty Amendments, Mark argues that if we cherish our American heritage, it's time to embrace a constitutional revival.
This book combines our heritage, the framers at the Constitutional Convention, the framers at the state conventions, who are always overlooked, and applies it to our current circumstances.
This year's must-read, The Liberty Amendments by Mark Levin, at fine bookstores everywhere, August 13th.
There we go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us get back to the problem. Now, let me talk about how Politico frames this, because Politico is essentially the mouthpiece for the ruling class. It says the problem, for these poor congressmen and senators and staffers, was rooted in the original text of the Affordable Care Act. So I guess for evermore we're calling this preposterous act that's unaffordable the Affordable Care Act, This is the way it works. Senator Chuck Grassley inserted a provision which said members of Congress and their aides must be covered by plans created by the law or offered through an exchange. In other words, what Grassley was doing correctly was saying, okay, well, if we're going to impose this on the American people, then we have to impose it on ourselves. Oh, my God! Can you imagine that? Until now, OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, had not said if the Federal Employee Health Benefits Program could contribute premium payments toward plans on the exchange. If payments stopped, lawmakers and aides would have faced thousands of dollars in additional premium payments each year. No, they would have had to pay for their own premiums, not subsidized by you and me, the federal taxpayer. Under the old system, the government contributed, that is you and me, nearly 75% of premium payments. So while many of you are losing your health care, or you're being priced out of the market, or you're a small business and you have to drop it, or you're a big company and you're throwing your employees into state exchanges, God forbid that the employees on Capitol Hill or congressmen and senators have to struggle with this law. So you and me are paying 75% of their premiums. And they're going home on recess, and if I were you, I'd give them an earful. And they didn't have the guts to put it up in an amendment, any kind of statute. No. Obama ordered one of his flunkies at OPM to do it. Where Boehner and Harry Reid were working behind the scenes to get this done. And let me tell you something, folks. This all goes on behind the scenes. It all goes on in the shadows. Some of you, listen to this, sickening irony. Some of you who are going to see your plan costs skyrocket, or some of you who are going to be dropped from your plans, are going to be subsidizing senators and congressmen and staffers for their health insurance when they created this thing. And then I have to watch these idiots on TV. These so-called reporters and some of the mouthpieces from Capitol Hill go on, well, listen, if you were at the Department of Energy, you would have this subsidy, from the under OPM, but this is because Grassley put, well, who cares? You're not at the Department of Energy. You're in Congress. Obama's involvement in solving this impasse. Solving what impasse? There was no impasse. Was unusual, to say the least, they write at Politico, but it came after serious griping from both sides of the aisle about the potential of a brain drain. Do they care about a brain drain in any industry, any business, any workplace in America but their own? And let me tell you something, a brain drain, what are they doing on Capitol Hill? Are they inventing anything? Are they producing anything? I mean, they're punishing everybody. But the brain drain, you see, the brain drain, we need to have all these brainiacs, right, brainiacs, of course, sitting there writing laws. Because what would we do without them? Well, we would thrive. That's what we would do without them. Oh, let's see now, folks. The fear, as told by sources in both parties, was that aides would head for a more lucrative job, spooked by the potential for spiking health premiums. Really, a more lucrative job? What the hell do they think is going on in the private sector? A more lucrative job? We're all struggling with paying our health care costs. I told you, my little legal foundation. It's a small legal foundation. Our health care costs went from $250,000 in 2010 to $460,000 this year. Maybe I should call President Obama and ask him for a fix. Nobody's subsidizing us to the tune of 75%. And we have to struggle like hell to make that payment. That's quite a nut. And I'm just giving you that as an example. All of you are living examples of what's going on. There was a certain sense of urgency, too, since enrollment in the exchanges was set to begin October 1st. There were discussions of a legislative fix, attaching language to a must-pass bill to fix the problem. But that would have been too difficult in today's paralyzed Washington. Today's paralyzed Washington, yeah, you know what? The Tea Party conservatives in the House and Senate would have objected. That's, you see, that's just to paralyze the environment. They didn't want to vote on it. And even now, when you question them on it, they're going to say, well, we had nothing to do with it. You know, Obama, the OPM did it. Don't buy that for 2 seconds. Yep. So, anybody want to take bets that Boehner will do something to reverse this? You'd be a sucker to take that bet, wouldn't you? Boehner wanted this. And where are the Republicans today on this, Mr. Producer? Have they said a damn thing? Not a word. Nothing. It's all done, folks. It's all done. The fix was in. Oh, I mean the presidential fix, not the legislative fix. The fix is in. You and I are going to subsidize the health care policies for members of the House of Representatives, members of the United States Senate, and also their staffers to the tune of 75%. While simultaneously, many of you are going to see your premium skyrocket, or you're going to be dropped from your coverage, or something in between. You're going to be subsidizing the health care for a senator and congressman and their staffers, many of whom created this predicament for you, while you're struggling on your own. And nobody's going to give a damn about that, while the Republicans are split. 12 Republican senators with guts versus the rest of them on whether to defund Obamacare. I'll say it again, as I've said for months. Will somebody please tell me what the Republican Party stands for today? Let's leave a line open for that one, shall we, Mr. Call Screener? Maybe one of you hack staffers, or one of you hack Republican activists, or maybe one of you hacks who are members of Congress. Maybe you can call us and tell us exactly what you stand for. Because as far as I'm concerned, I can't stand you. Because you're part of the problem. Need to clean out this rat's nest. Really do. Oh, we got to reelect Mitch McConnell. Why? Wow, so important. No, he's not. He has conferred leadership authority by his inaction and passivity to one of the biggest nut jobs in the Senate, John McCain. I mentioned the other day that Doug Ross, who has a great website, he was speculating, if not encouraging people in John Boehner's district to vote for the Democrat. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what he said. He said, you can't beat John Boehner in the Republican primary. They control that. Just beat him outright. And so we lose one more member of the House. We won't lose the House. Of course, that means Eric Cantor would be next in line. But would he be next in line? Yes, technically he would. But really, would he be? Or would a conservative revolt at that point take over? I think the latter. I think these Republicans who are born scared, they're born cowards. I think if they saw John Boehner go down, there's no way they promote Eric Cantor. There's no different than John Boehner, except that he even has more difficulty speaking in complete sentences. No, I'm not encouraging it. I'm just throwing it out there. Doug Ross was encouraging it and thinking about it. But it is a good question. How else do we defeat these people who are entrenched, who have gerrymandered these districts so they're not competitive? Unless we, the people, take matters into our own hands politically and do things that are creative, outside the box, Oh, I know the Republican establishment will go nuts. What are you talking about? Oh, my, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Who cares what they think? They're all a bunch of jackasses. So the same Republicans, for the most part, who've been all over TV and radio and everywhere else, trashing Ted Cruz, trashing Mike Lee, trashing Rand Paul, trashing Rubio on this issue, trashing any conservative who says defund Obamacare. Where are they on this one? Nowhere. The Republican Party, folks, is, as I said and I'll continue to say, the status quo party. And whether it's the status quo under Obama or whomever, that is what it is. It is a party that is just stuck in neutral. It's stuck. And then it has its mouthpieces in the press, many of whom worked in the Bush administration, telling us how neutral is progress. And people who actually want to put the car in drive and go somewhere, well, they're going to destroy the party. Let me tell you a little secret. The party's destroying itself. That's not to say we can't win a presidential election with the right nominee. But it's going to take conservatives to win that election, just as it took conservatives to win back the House of Representatives. As you well know, it's summertime. And our elected officials, well, they've left Washington. They're going home to hide from you. I'll bet we have a record number of congressmen and senators who don't hold town hall meetings because they really don't give a damn what you think. But some of them will. Some of these elected officials will soon be taking their month-long break back home in their districts. I can't stress how important it is for you to find time to meet with them, track them down, meet with them. Those who do speak at town halls and public forums to explain what they've been doing in Washington, you need to show up and let them know what you expect of them in Washington. The Tea Party Patriots are providing an excellent toolkit to give you everything you need during August recess. Simply go to teapartytoolkit.com and download your free August recess toolkit from the Tea Party Patriots today. There you'll find talking points, sample letters, and instructions on how to host your very own town hall. Now, please take advantage of these important tools today. You can do it today, you can do it tomorrow, but do it soon. Our country's in trouble, and we, the people, need to take responsibility to fix it. So because we know the politicians in Washington, and we know they're not going to do it. So go to teapartytoolkit.com right now to download your free toolkit. That's teapartytoolkit.com.
Mark Levin.
Congressman Louis Gohmert has called. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm frustrated, but otherwise making okay.
All right, we got 3 minutes till the music starts again. Go.
Well, it was a bit of a surprise to find out about this, and it's what federal employees have been having all over the country, but that all stops come January 1st. And so it was one of the nice things that was going to help get more members of Congress on board with, Mike Lee and Rand and Ted, folks in the Senate, and with a number of us in the House that were pushing to do what Mike's been talking about. But all of a sudden today, we find out, and it wasn't us, because I talked to our leaders and the lady that's in charge of health care for members of Congress. And I'm going, so where does this come from? Well, it was the office of exactly what you said. Well, it wasn't us.
I know, but Louis, let me slow you down. I happen to know more about this. This 5 or 6 weeks ago, Boehner was pushing this. Reid was pushing it. Then they attacked each other and blamed each other. They got caught, and I helped expose it myself. Now this whole damn operation went underground. Obama was asked to do it. He calls his OPM guy. OPM does it. Now everybody, oh, well, no, I didn't do it. No, it's it. He did it. I didn't do it. So here we are again. This is a Washington game. But the fact of the matter is the average person out there struggling who might lose their health care under this monstrosity or have to pay enormously high premiums now or deductibles, we are subsidizing Congress.
Well, I mean, that's been going on, but the big thing to me was we were trying to make a push to get people to stand up and say we're going to take a stand here. A majority of Americans didn't want Obamacare. It got passed anyway, and by golly, we're going to stand up for them because we know we don't want them to suffer, and they will under Obamacare. And it just kind of takes some of the fire as more and more members of Congress started realizing you may be okay with your health care insurance, but you're not going to have it January 1st. It was a lie to ever say you would.
Let me just say this, not to offend, but here's my attitude. More and more members of Congress need to have their asses kicked out of Washington, D.C., so they can know what it's like in the private sector to get a job and have health care in the first place, not have it subsidized by the taxpayers. If people want to be subsidized like they're at the Department of Education, then go to the Department of Education. Here's the deal, Louis. People like me, many conservatives across the, and you know this, so I'm preaching to the choir, are furious with Congress, disgusted with Congress, and when we see something, we want Congress punished. We want Congress screwed up as a result of the law that Congress passed. You didn't vote for it, but these other knuckleheads did, and they should have had the guts to vote on it, to fix it on the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate if that's what they wanted to do, not these games in the shadows.
I told this health insurance expert for the leaders, well, then I'm just going to turn it down. I'm not going to take it. She said, then you pay extra income tax. I went, crap, that's right. Because then people aren't talking about this enough. You've talked about so much of the bad stuff, but some poor guy making $11,000, that's $11,000 is the poverty level. So if you make 133% of that, that's $14,000, and you can't.
All right,
afford.
I got it. I apologize. Yeah. Louis, I'm not rude. I apologize. That music means I got to go. We'll be right back, folks.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
I'm here. We ready? I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. We're rolling through on this Friday evening. Boom, boom, boom. I've got more breaking news. That's what happens on Friday evenings. They figure you're just not around. But you are, and I am. Every evening, especially Friday evening, to catch all the bullcrap they try to slip under the radar. This from United Press International. A federal judge in Washington dismissed a challenge to the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on grounds the new agency was too powerful. Judge Ellen Siegel-Huvel said the plaintiffs have not faced any adverse rulings. They also did not face harm that is certainly impending, as the plaintiffs claim, the judge said. The case was brought by 11 states, 2 free market advocacy groups, and a Texas bank. The plaintiffs also claim naming Richard Cordray as the director of the Financial Watchdog Agency was unconstitutional, given his recess appointment. Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Georgia were among the 11 states that challenged the creation of the bureau that was a centerpiece to Dodd-Frank, as did the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and so forth. What does this mean? Well, folks, this is not only addressed in my new book, but we've addressed it on the air. You've heard of this bureau, haven't you? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Every single American who's involved in any level or aspect of our financial system has, from a bank teller to people who handle mortgage applications, to executives, to people in student loans and so forth, credit card company, everybody is affected by this. Now, the outrage of this law and the outrage of this court, because now the liberals are all over the damn federal court system, cannot be overstated. This Dodd-Frank law was passed a few months after Obamacare, ladies and gentlemen, by the same supermajority of Democrats in Congress. And this law is every bit as far-reaching as Obamacare. And it does affect you. It affects you in many, many ways. This Bureau was set up as yet another branch of the federal government. It's stunning in its power to control our economic system. And it was set up in such a way that Congress that no longer exists sought to protect it from congressional oversight, from congressional appropriations, from our basic employment laws. In other words, they sought to immunize it, to protect it from oversight, checks, and balances. And this Bureau is involved in every aspect of our financial system. Wow, we need to be regulated. This isn't regulated. This is nationalizing. Nationalizing. So our financial system, believe it or not, has been nationalized, and to the extent there's freedom to operate within our financial system, the government essentially now confers it. And it's unbelievable, this federal judge. Okay, folks, this is why the whole damn thing is poisonous. A Congress, a temporary Congress, 2-year period, supermajority Democrats, pass these outrageous laws that violate the Constitution. They delegate lawmaking authority to an agency they create and put in the executive branch. Then they try to tie the hands of all future Congresses by saying no future Congress can set the agency's budget. They can't dismiss the director, or the president can, unless under all kinds of circumstances, that the budget for this agency cannot be touched. It will be part of the Federal Reserve, and on and on and on. Something we've never seen before. And yet there it is. It's created. It's now within the federal government. And it's been challenged, and a federal judge says, tough. Tough, I'm sorry. You can't show that this is harmful. You can't show that harm is pending. You can't show any of these things. I can show that it's unconstitutional, but she will not give these parties, including all these states, their day in court. She said no. So what do we do, folks, as a practical matter? A Congress long gone that you threw out in 2010 has set policy forevermore. It can't be reversed. And the court just gave its stamp of approval to this? That's it? Case closed? Nothing we can... I say no, not case closed. We have to save our republic. Or restore it, because so much of it is gone. Gee, I wonder what Charles Krauthammer would say, or my buddy Pete Wehner, or all the rest. What would they say? Just take it in the throat? I think so. Status quo Republicans. Well, I say it's time to rise up. And I don't know whether we will rise up, or enough of us or not. Not rise up to do something tawdry or something uncivil, but embrace our Constitution. Because Lord knows Congress won't. Lord knows the courts won't. Lord knows Washington won't. This entity, this Bureau, has no place under our constitutional system. None. None. And there it is. Just like Obamacare. But you haven't felt it yet. You will. You'll feel it big time one day. So what do? Well, we just sit around and whine about it. Or we change the subject because it's just too damn depressing. Why don't we talk about a barbecue we're going to have on Saturday? Why don't we turn this into the Oprah channel? Why don't we turn it into the cooking channel? Hey, have they ever tried a cooking radio channel, Mr. Producer? That would be kind of interesting, where you just kind of have, you know, you can hear the water boiling in the background or somebody chopping onions or, you know, you could do stuff like that. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? No, not in the least. Well, I'm going to tell you what can be done. Whether it will be done is another story because it's hard. We need to rise up from the bottom up. I know the ruling class hates us. I know these governing masterminds seek to have an iron grip around us, but we have to do what we have to do. We need to begin the arduous, difficult process of electing people at the lowest level of state government, state delegates or assemblymen, depending on what they're called in your particular state, and state senators. You elected and changed parties of 700 of them in 2010. If we have as our strategic focus, doing more of that, we can be on our way. Not easily. There's a lot of blue states, but these blue states at some point are going to collapse, as Detroit is collapsing. And we have to be ready. And so we have to use Article 5 of the United States Constitution. It's every bit as of the Constitution as all the rest of it. And they hate it in Washington. They hate it. They think it's a joke. They think this is a shtick. The Constitution has been amended 27 times under one method. But there's another method. It's right there in the same provision, Article 5. And it's denounced. Hey, if you love the Constitution, why the hell would you amend it? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, we're amending it, I hope, to preserve what's left of it. The Supreme Court is an ongoing constitutional convention. They're rewriting the Constitution all the time. That's what federal judges are doing, like this one. Congress doesn't abide the Constitution. Congress doesn't have general lawmaking power. It's not a plenary body. It's got enumerated specific powers, but it doesn't stop them from passing Obamacare and Dodd-Frank. These are unconstitutional laws, whether the Supreme Court rules it or not, that were passed by Congress. The President of the United States has no authority to make law, and yet what does he say? I'm going to use executive orders to do this and the other. And what did he do? Okay, the mandate for businesses, no. For individuals, yes. I'm going to issue waivers. I'm going to subsidize members of Congress and their staff. What the hell? Where does this power come from? Nowhere. And then I have to hear, well, Mark, we have to preserve the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to reestablish the Constitution. That's the point. We need a constitutional revival. And it's right there in a dormant part of the Constitution. Article 5. And it wasn't considered novel, or odd or anything of the sort by the framers of the Constitution. They're the ones who wrote it. And they argued for it in the Federalist Papers. And there it sits. And we're not supposed to pay any attention to it. Well, what are we going to do, folks? John Roberts on the Supreme Court said Obamacare is constitutional. That's it. Your lives are screwed up forever because of John Roberts, right? Oh, bullcrap. A Congress that's dead and gone was there in 2010, passes all this crap. That's it, right? No matter who we elect, listen to the Republicans. Oh, we can't defund this. What do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do, folks? What are we going to do about it? Well, I didn't come up with this idea. I'm reminding America of this idea. And it's an idea that has never been used successfully. It was never supposed to be used frequently. It was supposed to be used, as George Mason of Virginia said. George Mason, the author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, the precursor to our Declaration of Independence, who said when the government becomes oppressive, the people need to be able to address it. An oppressive Congress isn't going to reform an oppressive Congress. Makes no sense. And so 2 days before the end of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, as I've mentioned before, George Mason stood up and he insisted. He said there has to be a way for the people to take their government back if it becomes oppressive, if it becomes tyrannical, if it ceases to represent them. A democratic despotism, if you will. And he said Congress, which will be part of the tyranny, will not reform itself. And we must have a plan short of violence, short of revolution, to address this. And it's right there, ladies and gentlemen, in the Constitution. They put it right in there. And they argued for it in the Federalist Papers, and they had to, because at the state conventions, they thought that the central government would become too powerful. And one of the ways that the Federalists, the pro-Constitution founders, convinced a number of the delegates at the various state conventions to support this new Constitution. Just one of the ways, there are several, but one of the ways was to point to this amendment process. And, you know, back then, this wasn't all that odd. It was, in fact, commonplace. It made common sense because the states often met and signed compacts to do a number of things. Now, already I see on some of the blogger posts and on some of my social sites people saying, a constitutional convention? I don't want a constitutional convention. Neither do I. It's not a constitutional convention. There's no authority for a constitutional convention. It says a convention for the purpose of proposing amendments. Just like Congress meets and proposes amendments, the states would meet and propose amendments, and in both cases, 3/4 of the states would have to ratify them, or they don't become law. This is the only way that I can think of to address judicial tyranny, congressional tyranny, presidential tyranny. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin. America's mentor of conservatism. Call now at 877-381-3811.
You know, when you reject free market capitalism and what comes with it, that is self-interest, private property rights, and all these other things that have made America such a wealthy nation, and not for the few, for the many. I don't mean millionaires and billionaires. I mean when you compare our lot to the rest of the world, it's pretty remarkable, which is why the rest of the world keeps trying to sneak across our border. But in any event, when a president and a bureaucracy and a court system and too many Congresses reject the creation of wealth, reject private property rights by imposing one law after another law, by piling one regulation on top of another regulation, by disrespecting individuals who work hard, who create wealth, well, what do you get? You see, folks, when you reject free market capitalism, you destroy your country. You destroy opportunity. You destroy jobs. You destroy families. You destroy futures. What am I talking about? Did you see these job numbers today? I dug deep into these job numbers today. And I'm not going to go into some statistical rant, but you need to understand what this president's doing to children, to minorities, to families with this Marxist crap. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the modern voice of the Founding Fathers. This is the Mark Levin Show. Dial in now at 877-381-3811.
So what's happened to our economy? Well, our economy is sick. And it's been sick for years. And Obama keeps feeding it poison. The great website that I've been using for years called Zero Hedge. This fella, Tyler Durden, he's great. And he says, of the 953,000 jobs created in 2013, 77% are part-time jobs. He said the world finally noticed what we've been saying here for 3 years, that the U.S. was slowly being converted to a part-time worker society. The slow conversion accelerated drastically in the last few months, and especially in June when part-time jobs exploded higher by 360,000, while full-time jobs dropped by 240,000. And the morons in the media would say, wow, look at that, we have job growth. Oh, yeah, 120,000 new jobs. So we lost 240,000 full-time jobs in June, picked up 360,000 part-time jobs. Now in July, the part-time worker society is not tapering off. And sadly, these businesses who are hiring part-time workers, if they're not careful, they don't know how to do addition, they're going to find out that the government has said, oh, okay, we're going to add up all the hours you part-timers are working, and then we're going to see if they're full-time equivalent to 50 full-time jobs, and if they're 50 or more, now Obamacare covers your business. See, it's folks, it's like behind the Iron Curtain. Everybody buying light bulbs. Everybody trying to find a way out. Everybody hoarding stuff. How do I avoid this law? How should I count this? So we have people, entrepreneurs, who could be productive, creating jobs and products and services and wealth across the board. They're having to spend time to try and figure out how to avoid the iron fist of government. Or how about this from the jobs report? Breitbart, Mike Flynn. Black teen unemployment is a shocking 41.6%. This time last year, it was 36%. So almost half of black teenagers who want to get jobs are unemployed. They can't find jobs. There's been a lot of talk about race and what causes this and what causes that. I'm going to tell you folks something. One of the things that would contribute to improving communities, to improving our culture, to reducing the negative effects and crime and so forth, job opportunities, business opportunities. And when you destroy capitalism, when you're constantly attacking the free market, as this president does, you make it more difficult, if not impossible in some communities, to create wealth, create opportunities, create jobs. And so you have more drug use, more gang activity, all the kinds of stuff we don't want to fill the void. Not exclusively, but it contributes to it. Free market capitalism. We should be embracing it. We should be expanding it. We should be explaining it. We should be celebrating it. And yet we have this class warfare president who's never worked behind a cash register at a 7-Eleven. It's sad. Just in March, the number was 8 points lower at 33%. By the way, the white teen unemployment rate is 20%. So 1 out of every 5 white teenagers trying to get a job can't. Now, more on the Obama economy. This is, again, what happens when you kill the golden goose. Oh, I love the golden eggs, but you're killing the golden goose, and you don't get golden eggs without the golden goose. For those of you who are into cartoons and fables and so forth. Here's CBS Washington. A record number of young adults are living with their parents. This is a Pew Research study. 36% of millennials, that is young adults ages 18 to 31, are living at their parents' homes. The highest number in 40 years. The record 21.6 million young adults still living at home last year with their parents. Declining employment led more young adults to stay with their parents. 63% of millennials had jobs in 2012, down from 70% in 2007. Everywhere you look and you listen to the news in this country, there are some hopeful signs. I mean, they're not great. They need to be better, but hopeful signs. I see no hopeful signs. I see worse. I see Harry Reid going on about we need $1 trillion tax increase. I see the President of the United States wanting to expand the federal government, talking about more and more spending. Now, the economy added 162,000 jobs last month. Bull crap. It didn't add anything. The workforce shrunk again. People fell out of the workforce again. They've given up. They've gone on Social Security disability. They've gone on unemployment. They've gone on food stamps. There's a reason why those areas of government are massively expanding, record numbers. And on the private sector side, you see contraction, you see dislocation, because the movement is in the wrong direction. People are moving into government entitlements, government welfare. They're moving into their parents' homes, or they're giving up. You know, what a dreary place Obama has made America. Don't you think, Mr. Producer? I mean, Reagan talked about a shining city on a hill, a vibrant economy, a vibrant nation. He was a happy man. You could see that he projected it across the nation, and it resonated across the nation. Look at this guy. Running around, yelling, talking about class warfare, the rich. We need to spend more, tax more. And he's going to be flying off to Martha's Vineyard soon. You know, to be with the little people. Like he told his daughters, you know, this isn't real America, you know. People are struggling out there. Now, don't trip on your way onto Air Force One, please. So these are disastrous numbers. And the reason we have these numbers is because Obama rejects free market capitalism. And free market capitalism is the greatest economic model because it's the natural economic model of a free people. There's a relationship between individual liberty and the nature of your economy. This is not a free economy. And yes, I hate to say it, it's not really a free country. Oh, Mark, I'm going to go to the movies. I'm going to have a Chinese restaurant. Oh, I've got my iPod. What the hell are you talking about? Really? Try opening a business. Try adding on to your home if you live on a river or a lake. Try using whatever paint you want to paint your house, or buy whatever light bulb you want, or to buy a toilet that actually works. And you see, as I say time and again, the circle of liberty that surrounds every individual as a matter of birth, getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. That is, our unalienable rights. I didn't say we live in a gulag. I didn't say you can take a crime tape and just put it around the country. I said that this is a soft tyranny. as Alexis de Tocqueville defined it, as he characterized it. This is what it is. And there it is. It's for everybody to see. It's omnipresent if you want to look. If you own a restaurant, you can't put out the menu you want. You have to print a menu under federal guidelines. The menu is under federal guidelines. If you want to start a private nursery school like my parents did when they were young, in many cases you couldn't start one today. You'd be put out of business with government regulations because of the monopoly of the educational system. There's so many things you can't do today as a matter of law that were done 30 or 40 years ago without really giving it much thought. Oh, but Mark, we're free. Are they free in Great Britain? Well, of course they are, right? Quote unquote. And yet there's so little they can do without government permission. If you have just a few extra minutes this weekend, I want you to think about something. If you don't, then don't think about it. But if you do, I want you to think about something. I want you to look around your house and think about what is not regulated in some way. What's not regulated in some way? I'm looking at my desk. My watch is on my desk. Look at my watch. Well, my watch isn't regulated, is it? Of course it is. It's got a leather band. You can't create leather without complying with federal regulations. And other aspects of it, metal on my watch, can't be produced without federal regulations. I've got a glass of water on my desk. Water is heavily regulated. Yes, it's sitting on a paper towel. Why? I don't know. It was there, so I put it on the paper towel. The paper towel is heavily regulated. I'm just telling you, folks. What else do I have? Well, I have a pen that has ink. Ink is regulated under our hazmat rules. I'm just looking at the desk. Oh, absolutely is. There's really very little that's not regulated. Let's see here. I've got a bag of pistachio nuts that I've been nibbling on. Let's see. They're organic. Well, you know, organic is defined by the federal government now. So they couldn't put that word on the package. And packaging of food is regulated by the federal government. Well, Mark, that's to keep us safe. Well, I know. Everything's to keep us safe. We should all live in a bubble, you know. Because obviously before all these regulations and rules and all the rest, Americans didn't know how to eat. They didn't know how to crap. They didn't know how to shower. They didn't know how to transport themselves, clothe themselves, house themselves. Americans were eating lead paint and lead pencils. And, you know, we were just stupid until the federal government told us what to do. There's more rules on this bag of pistachios. I'm looking at it now, from nutritional facts to ingredients to allergens to packaging to this, that, and the rest of it. Just a bag of pistachio nuts, folks. That's all it is. Right there. So I want you to think about it. Take a good look at something. Well, they don't regulate pens. Of course they do. The ink has to be disposed of a certain way. The metal, the plastic on the pen, they're all regulated. The production of them is regulated. Paper. Look on your electronic equipment. Your toaster's regulated. Your washing machine, your dryer, your refrigerator. It's all regulated. And we're all the better off for it. Not. The Media Research Center, Brent Bozell from the Media Research Center, has a best-selling book out called Collusion: How the Media Stole the 2012 Election and How to Stop Them from Doing It in 2016. It reveals the shocking truth about how a failed president won re-election. It's a must-read. Order your copy right now at MediaCollusion.com. Have you noticed the media's dirty trick with wealthy politicians? If you're a Democrat who inherited millions or married into wealth like John Kerry, they leave you alone pretty much. But if you're a Republican and you made money running your own business, you're a villain. When ABC's Diane Sawyer interviewed Mitt Romney last year, she demonstrated this perfectly. She said, the speaking fees, the Cadillacs, the elevator for your cars, are you too rich to relate? Now, what kind of question is that? Has Diane Sawyer ever asked John Kerry or Barack Obama the same thing? Collusion is packed with examples of the media parroting liberal talking points. It's also the conservatives' guide to countering them. And all the proceeds go to the MRC. So here we are, Friday evening. No better time to order this than now. No better time to read it than now. So please go to MediaCollusion.com. Go there now. Order your copy of Collusion. Tell your friends about it, too. That's MediaCollusion.com.
Mark Levin.
You know, I just broke a damn tooth. Back on the bottom. You know, you start eating something crunchy and you realize it's your own teeth. What the hell is that? So, all points bulletin to my great dentist. By the way, wonderful Cuban-American, Amelia Canal. I don't know when I can squeeze this in, though, really. I'm just so bogged down in prepping for the big release and doing my radio program and so forth. Louis Gohmert had called earlier, and the point he was trying to make, and we ran out of time, and I think it's an excellent point. He said, this fix, quote unquote, that Obama did for Congress and the staffers, he said, there's nothing like self-interest to get people to defund Obamacare, and he thinks one of the reasons, he makes a good point, that Obama did this, and I would add, with the support of the leadership in Congress, was so that members of Congress would be less willing to defund Obamacare because their problems have been taken care of. It's a brilliant point. So, appreciate that. Have I taken any calls today? No, I haven't. No wonder I'm enjoying myself. Let's see here. Sorry. Russ, San Angelo, Texas, Sirius Satellite. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. Much of the work I've been doing in the last 7 or 8 months coming up with a plan on how to go after the RNC has been inspired by you and your monologues. And the monologue at the top of this hour absolutely was wonderful. So thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
I have been in contact with staffers of one of your favorite elected officials, and I'd like to share with you some of the research I've been doing.
Well, we literally have 120 seconds.
120 seconds. There is a way to go after the RNC. It's like if the baseball was corrupt and only 1 or 2 teams could, get into the World Series, you don't recreate an entire league. You take the other teams, pull out, and form your own league. And those teams are the state parties. Texas has a wonderful state party. It has a grassroots up type of party. I think the key to feeding the RNC is recoalescing those state parties under a new flag. And that would, I believe, either bring them to their knees or we leave them in the dust.
So you want to bring a new flag being a new party or just a conservative movement within the Republican Party?
A new party altogether. I think if you had 20 or 30 conservative states say we're not going to the RNC convention anymore, we're having our own convention, we're going to elect our own nominee, we're going to have enough electoral college votes to get our own guy into office. Most of the party is dominated by blue states that can't even elect Republicans. And those of us that can elect Republicans, we're shut out of the process.
Well, and part of the problem in the process is our biggest, most conservative states that are the most important in general elections, they're not up early, they're not in the front of the primary process like they ought to be. All right, my friend, I have a different idea. I have a way to go right at the federal Leviathan. I'm not opposed to your idea necessarily. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe this. The hour of power is next. I have a great guest. No, I'm not going to tell you. You have to tune in. I'll be right back.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, Deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. This is the Power Hour. What? Anyway, I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Chris Christie, our friend at the Drudge Report, Matt Drudge, has a beat on the guy right now. Keeping an eye on him. Chris Christie has a radio ad. And the radio ad, he talks about Christie-crats. Now, when I heard Christie-crats, I thought, is that like a new food that Christie's eating? Yeah, you know, I used to call him Krispy Kreme Christie. Although, no offense, and with all due respect, that lap band doesn't seem to be doing the trick. But in any event, we have what's called Christie-crats. Or is it Christie crap? I don't know. They do rhyme in a way. It's a radio ad, you see, because the governor of New Jersey knows how to reach across the aisle. He's very good at this. He can't reach that far, but he's trying. He's reaching. You know, Mr. Producer, he reaches across the aisle, particularly at the grocery store in the bakery section, I understand. Oh, all right, I'll stop. Well, look, all these other jerks are doing their, wiener jokes. I'm doing my Christie jokes. What do you want? But anyway, I was curious to hear this ad. Would you like to hear this ad? I mean, it's Friday. Why not? Hat Tip Washington Examiner. I haven't heard this ad yet, by the way. Cut 4, go.
There are so many Democrats endorsing Chris Christie's re-election that they actually have a name, Christie-crats. There's
Stop.
the support.
Really? They have a name, Christie-crats? Gee, they didn't make that up, did they? Go ahead and rewind to the beginning, would you please? Christie-crats. Very good. Let's see. Go ahead.
There are so many Democrats endorsing Chris Christie's re-election that they actually have a name, Christie-crats. There's the support of major power brokers like Essex County Executive Joe DiVincenzo.
It is because what he has shown working across the aisle, the bipartisanship, and it's for real.
And
it's
support from small-town mayors like Jennifer Naughton of Spring Lake Borough.
And we are pleased to stand with Governor Christie on his re-election bid.
So far, 43 elected Democrats have lined up behind Christie. They say they support the Republican because he welcomed President Barack Obama after Sandy. They liked when he criticized House Republicans for holding up relief funds. And they appreciate how he's crossed party lines to support...
You know who the biggest Christie-crat is, Mr. Producer? Christie. I like this. Krispy Kreme, the #1 Christie-crat. What a bunch of... Is this his campaign ad or is this somebody else's ad? Do we even know? Is it his? Because if it's his, he just blew it. You just blew it there, Crispy. Because now you're a Christie-crat. Chris Christie-crat. I love it. The guy just named himself. Go ahead.
I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat all my life. He made it a point to reach out for me to help me in Harrison as a Hudson County Democrat. It's unheard of.
Harrison Mayor Raymond McDonough was the first Democratic mayor to endorse Christie. He says he decided to throw his support behind the governor when he vowed to get funding for the Harrison Path station.
I've been mayor 19 years.
Stop. See that? He got us money. He's like an old school governor, this Christie-crat. You know, he's doling out the bucks. Oh, he gave us for this, he gave us for that. I'm listening. And I'm listening to see, did he expand economic growth? Did he slash taxes? Is that why these Christie-crats are endorsing Christie-crat? No. It's paid for by Chris Christie for governor, by the way, so it is his committee. Go ahead.
I'm told by the Port Authority it was going to happen a number of times. Why hasn't it? He made it a point to approach me.
Now the station is poised for a $256 million overhaul.
Yes! Yes, government spending. Yes, I'm a Christocrat. Is that it? It's over? I was just starting to enjoy all the other New Jersey Democrat mayors telling us why they supported Christie. $250 million. Yes, Christocrats. Christocrat, these are big spending liberal Democrats, Christocrats, and big spending liberal Republicans. But if you ask the man, he'll tell you he's a fiscal conservative. Why? Compared to all the jerks that came before him? Mark, why are you so hard on Christie? Well, here's another area. Who led the way exposing this guy? Me. Now the others have figured it out. Wait a minute. He's going to run as a Dem. That's right. I've been saying it for years. I can spot them a mile away. And in his case, I can spot him 10 miles away. I don't know what he paid for that lap band, but he better get his money back because it ain't working. What do you think of that? With all due respect. Next up is the Republican leader of the Senate, John McCain. John McCain, the biggest nut there is in the Senate. Well, there's a lot of nuts. One of the biggest nuts. And I say that with all due respect. John McCain has a hate-on for Ted Cruz and Rand Paul because they're everything John McCain is not as a politician, principled. So let's hear what John McCain has to say. Cut 2, go.
In recent years, the turnover in the Senate has been really pretty extraordinary.
Stop. No, it hasn't been extraordinary, as a matter of fact. Hasn't been extraordinary at all. See, this is the problem with the media in this country. Ignorant. The turnover in the Senate in the last cycle was 85%. In the cycle before that, it was the incumbency success rate was 85%. And the success rate of incumbents in the prior cycle was 84%. That's extraordinary. You mean 15% lost? Oh, my God! What about continuity? Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Go ahead.
In recent years, the turnover in the Senate has been really pretty extraordinary. More than half of the Senate is new. Is this good for the body?
I think it might be good to have a lot of fresh infusion.
Stop. Yeah, we need fresh infusion. That's the ticket. Fresh infusion. Go ahead.
As we keep some corporate memory.
Stop. Oh, we need a corporate memory. Otherwise, we'll forget. See, we'll forget if we don't keep reelecting people over and over and over. I want them to forget. Forget the bad habits. Forget the big spending. Go ahead.
For example, the people who are pushing this Obamacare versus government shutdown, none of them that I know were here the last time we saw that movie.
And so Cruz and Rand Paul weren't here.
Yeah,
they benefit from that history.
Yeah, so they need to do that.
Yes, you see, ladies and gentlemen, they weren't there, so they don't know. John was there. You know what's funny, folks? I wasn't at the Revolutionary War, but I know something about it. Were any of you at the Civil War? No, you weren't. Well, then how can you even talk about it? You haven't experienced it. Do you even remember your birth? I don't remember my birth. Do you remember your birth, Mr. Producer? Mr. Call Screener? No, we don't remember our birth, but yet we were born. So you have to actually have been there to know what you're talking. I wasn't on the moon with Armstrong either. So I don't know anything about it. You see, John, this is why we have what we call books. You can read the books. It'll tell you about the history. We also have what we call conversations. So you can talk to people who were there who may not have your view, Johnny. Now, here's the thing, Johnny. I wasn't in the Senate when the government was shut down in 1995, but I was in America. I was literate. I was paying attention. Were you, Johnny? And here's the funny thing. You won 2 Senate seats. You lost 9 House seats after winning over 50 So some of the soft races that had been won were lost, as is expected. It wasn't a disaster. No, it wasn't a disaster. I've seen this movie. They weren't there. And so there we have the Republican leader of the Senate, John McCain, Mitch McConnell, and all the big fights, whether it's been immigration or the budget or what have you. He's just not there. Obamacare. But you see, none of this will matter, folks. Because the Republican leader in the Senate, John McCain, has said, you don't pass this immigration thing. None of this matters. Cut one, go.
But I want to say in the strongest possible terms that if we fail on immigration reform, it won't matter who our nominee is because of the polarization of the Hispanic vote. Now, that's not why I'm for immigration reform, but it certainly is one of the consequences of a failure.
Have you noticed these guys all say the same thing? Listen, this isn't about politics. God forbid, nothing we do here is no, not politics. No. This is about what's good for America. But if you don't support what's good for America, that is my views on things, then it's bad politics. We've got our Christie-crats and the, what do we call the McCain people? McCain-crats? I don't know. We just put crats at the end. I think we put craps at the end of everything with a P, not a T. By the way, where's Lindsey Graham been? These Siamese senators, normally, when they're kind of attached at the hip, or as I like to call them, same-sex senators. Or John Linds, or whatever. Where's Lindsey been? Ooh, he's got a primary in, Jay Linds, I'm sorry. He's got a primary in South Carolina. Unfortunately, it's an open primary, but he's got a primary nonetheless. I guess he thought it was time to go back to South Carolina and sway the people there about what a great senator he is. We have Lindsey-crats, McCain-crats, Christie-crats. Crats, they're all rats. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Are my eyes deceiving me? During the break, as usual, I have the Fox News channel on, and I could swear Bill O'Reilly looks like Greg Gutfeld. What's all that about? Let's take a call, shall we? By the way, great guest. In just a few minutes, great guest. Let's see, how can I... Not with the UFC this time. Not a politician per se. What do you mean by that? You'll know what I mean. Let's see, what else can I say? Not transgendering, to the best of my knowledge. Great friend, too, I might add. Great friend. A great patriot. So you're going to love it. You're going to love him, too. You just do. I know you do. Jim, Orlando, Florida, our great affiliate WDBO country. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you. I just want to
give peace a chance, my friend. Keep hope alive.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out one thing. When they come back from their recess, the main argument is going to go into the budget and the whole Obamacare and continuous resolution. And the one thing I always like to point out, I think it's something that they could spin Obamacare and they can spin all different issues, but the one thing that was a very contentious issue back in 2009 and 10 was that stimulus package of $850 billion. And I just don't think people are aware that every year through this budget process, since there is no budget, that every year this $850 billion
You're right.
is spent again and again and again.
That's built into the baseline. That stimulus never went away, and that was their big push to explode the size of the budget.
Right, and I think as far as an argument or a debate, it would be very difficult for anybody to defend that or spin that. Because
oh, no, they defend it and they spin it and they, hey, we can't cut, we cut, everybody's going to be without. Meanwhile, there's massive waste and abuse. All right, Jim, by the way, are you going to be going to Disney World this weekend?
No, not this weekend, although...
I like those 25-pound soft pretzels. I love those damn things.
There's a lot of great things about Disney World.
All right, my friend. You know what? I'm serious. I think I said this the other night, a week or two or three ago. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I think I said, when I retire, I'd like to work at Disney World. I did say that. Matter of fact, I'd like to run the place. Take the place of, what's the guy that, Michael, whatever. Everybody's run to Disney World's named Michael. Or just sit on a bench and watch life go by. Let's see here. I used to broadcast from Disney World. As a matter of fact, when my syndication partner was ABC Radio, it was a lot of fun. Those people were very, very supportive. But it was a lot of fun. Let's see here. Ryan, McAllister, Oklahoma, the great Mark Levin app. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I get to Ryan, if you haven't downloaded the Mark Levin app and linked to it on your smartphone, you don't know what you're missing. You can take me everywhere. And I mean everywhere and anywhere, and hear me everywhere and anywhere. It's like an old transistor radio. Seriously. Even if you listen on any other platform, download Mark Levin app. Go ahead, Ryan, quickly. I'm sorry.
No, that's right, Mark. It is the best app, and I'm such a big fan.
Thank you.
Liberty and Tyranny. I think it's the best conservative book I've ever read Meritopia, and I have pre-ordered your book and can't wait for it to come out. Thank you so much.
I appreciate
You're inspiring, and you are the voice of the founders today, Mark, and we appreciate you so much. But
well, thank you. But now, hold on now. You're going to have to hold over. Don't hang up. Because your words of wisdom aimed at me took up the time. So don't hang up, Ryan. We'll pick up after the bottom of the hour. All right, folks. Actually, we're going to have our guest after the bottom of the hour. Then we'll have Ryan, okay? I'll be right back.
Some people talk about the Tea Party. We are the Tea Party. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Well, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce a very, very dear friend of mine of long standing, retired Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. How are you, Ollie?
I am glad to be with you, brother. And you're going to fess up to what happened this afternoon?
All right, you can reveal it. Go ahead.
I don't want to give a free plug to anybody, but you and I bumped into each other at a place that retails our books.
Well, tell them where. It's all right. Costco. And what was I doing there?
You were shopping, and I was shopping.
Tell them the truth. What was I doing there?
You were buying a hot dog. I saw you buy a hot dog. I watched it happen.
Let me tell you something. They have those big kosher hot dogs. You have to admit they're good, aren't they?
They're really good, and it's the best deal going because $1.50 plus a 20-ounce drink with a refill.
And what the hell were you wolfing down that was dripping with all that grease?
I was having the turkey and provolone sandwich.
Yeah, sounds good, but it was
all the way back up from South Carolina.
All right. Listen, you're a dear friend. I want to get into this because, as always on radio, time is limited. You've written a novel. And by the way, I want people to know, you really do write these books. I remember being on a little airplane with you and our buddy Sean. And by the way, I almost had a heart attack. And there you were with your little laptop writing. Remember that little flight?
14 books. I do remember. In fact, we were supposed to land somewhere else, but we had to land and put you into an ambulance.
Not an ambulance, but I was very ill, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were. I thought we were having a heart attack. So
all right. Oh, really? Where was I? Oh, my head was between my legs. All right, here we are. The book is Heroes Proof. By the way, it's a beautiful book, and I just started reading it the other day. It's a very, very compelling novel, but you know what I noticed? There's a lot of overlap with what's going on today. You go ahead and explain.
I didn't intend it to be that way. I wrote the book. It's a future-looking book, but it just turns out that there's a female president. The president lies about a terror attack on 9/11/01. It includes duplicity in the part of all the administration. It includes a Congress that is absolutely useless in terms of looking after us, an attack on Israel, the menace of Iranian nukes, a threat to the Bill of Rights, a U.S. economic crisis, our military being cut to the bone. And I started the book 2 years ago and never expected it would all be happening right now. When I was in California, I just got back from Afghanistan, flew out to California to be with...
All right, whoa, slow down a second.
Yeah.
How many times have you been to Afghanistan?
I've been 50. This is our 57th embed.
How old are you now? Seriously.
Afghanistan and Iraq. And our friend Hannity puts me on every time I'm over there. You know,
well, let me ask you this. I don't mean to be rude. I can't hear everything, but I don't mean to be rude. How old are you now, may I ask?
I'll be 70 in October. I'm still 69, so I'm young enough to keep up with a 25-year-old while I'm wearing a flak jacket and helmet, although sometimes it's a little breathless.
That's unbelievable. I saw you today. You didn't look 70, I'll tell you that. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. What were you saying?
So, look, our good friend Hannity puts me on every time I'm over there, and we did a great report this year on this last trip on how well things are actually going over there and how this administration is about to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which, by the way, relates back to the book. Not to segue this thing. I was just in South Carolina where a significant part of this book is set. A good bit of it takes place in Washington. Some of it takes place on the battlefields of Afghanistan. Some of it takes place in a terror attack on the city of Houston. Thus, the first chapter, Houston, we have a problem. And looking at all the things that are happening today, I could, you know, you and I both have the same editor. Not only do we shop at Costco, but you and I have the same editor.
Wasn't shopping. I was buying a hot dog. I have shopped there. Don't get me wrong. I don't need 25 pounds of grapes, that's all.
Listen, he even checks himself out at Costco. He's got a blue receipt instead of the long white one. And you had to check out at the door. And I heard you say to the kid, Kevin, remember Kevin at the door when we were working out? Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I bought some health drinks for a friend of mine. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. All right, here's my question to you.
Fire away.
These characters in your book, Heroes Proved, are these real people?
Yeah, they're real people. Not all the things that are in this book were done by exactly the same people, but all the people in the book are real people. They've all done these kinds of things. And I've, as I say, I've had a very, very exciting life. I've been able to keep company with heroes for nearly all of it. My dad was a World War II and Korean War hero. All my brothers served in the military. All my uncles served in either World War II or Korea, or in some cases both.
It's amazing.
And so there's a family tradition there. And I've been able to keep up thanks to Fox. They let me go over there and keep company with these people. I go out to California. While I was in California, right after I got back, I flew out to California. Was with a room full of guys that are missing some part of their bodies. In many cases, it's a limb because they were doing EOD work, or SEALs, or Marines, or soldiers who really got shot up badly. And one of the folks who was there covering this event for Freedom Alliance is a reporter, and she asked me, doesn't it disturb you that most of the people buying your books are members of the Tea Party? And I said, why would that disturb me? She said, well, I thought you were a Republican. I said, you know, I am a Republican. I ran for office as a Republican. But I will also tell you that if the Republican Party continues to do the things that are in this novel, it will cease to be a political force in America. And that's where we're headed, unfortunately. And that's kind of the conversation you and I were having this afternoon at one of those nice little picnic tables at Costco.
By the way, you bought all that mixed lettuce. Did you wash it?
I did. And you know, if you put just a drop or two of Clorox in a spray bottle and you spray this stuff, the veggies and stuff, no matter where you buy them, it's not just Costco, it's anywhere. You spray it with that, just a couple of drops is all it takes, with an eyedropper, in a spray bottle. Spray it with that and then rinse it off. You're fine, because it's chlorine, and it cleans it up very well.
I've never heard of this before.
Yes. Listen.
Remind me not to eat salad at your house, okay?
No, there's no taste to it. It's gone because you rinse it off. You know, we
all right.
well water out here in Virginia. You know that.
No, I don't have well water, not where I am. We have a gated community with barbed wire around it to keep me safe.
You almost need it because, unfortunately, many of the things that are in this book are unfortunately coming true. I mean, when you think about the duplicity...
Give us some examples. Give the audience some examples.
Well, let's start out with 9/11. The book, this one, Here is Proof, starts out with a terror attack on 9/11 with an administration that does absolutely nothing to prepare for it. Well, guess what we learned again this week? We've had it reiterated several times, and finally a Marine colonel gets called by Frank Wolf to go testify and acknowledges they did absolutely no planning whatsoever for an anniversary the likes of 9/11/01. Now we've got every American embassy, every American consulate in the Middle East and around as far away as Indonesia closed on Sunday and maybe for several days in advance because somebody suspects, there might be a terror attack. Well, think about 9/11. As long as you and I live, and everyone listening to us, Mark Levin, 9/11 will be a terror anniversary. Any administration that fails to prepare for that by prepositioning assets, doing alerts, and the kinds of things that I used to do when you and I were in the Reagan administration, routinely, terror events, all live by anniversaries. Whether it's the Black September group or whether it's the 1 February group, it didn't matter if it was the Bader-Meinhof gang or the Red Brigades or the Red Army faction or the PFL-PGC. It didn't matter. There was a terror event that they acknowledged with an anniversary. And so you alerted people, and you prepositioned assets. Look what just happened. 4 dead Americans 11 months ago. We still don't know anybody who's been arrested, detained, interrogated, and we have absolutely no accountability whatsoever in the government of the United States for this. And that's not just the fault of the administration. They're duplicitous. It is incompetence on the part of the Republicans not to have convened a special committee. You and I know something about special committees, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do, especially you.
Well, if they want to get answers, that's what you do. And, you know, one of the things...
And by the way... I will never forget how you ran circles around that committee. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
But you know, here's the bottom line, and this is what makes it so egregious to hear people say, well, this is nothing different than Iran-Contra.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, no Americans died in Iran-Contra. Number two, when the president said go testify, everybody did, and they testified truthfully. They wanted all the information. They got all the information, tens of thousands of pages of it. Now, they asked stupid questions.
Let's stop right there. What you just said, and I forgot about, is absolutely crucial. Ronald Reagan ordered everyone in his government to testify before Congress, correct?
We did.
That's right.
For weeks on end. You know, I mean, it was July of 1987, and I sat there for 9 long days, some of which people didn't see because it was held behind closed doors because it was so highly classified. But nonetheless, everybody who was told to testify did, and every document that they asked for, they were given. There was no cover-up. This is an administration that has done nothing but cover-up since day one. Think about what happens with the so-called Fast and Furious operation. It goes all the way back to that. You have an attorney general who's now been held in contempt of Congress, and nothing.
And laughs at it, thumbs his nose at them.
They can get away with it because of the incompetence of the Republicans, which is one of the failures of our system. It isn't simply...
Okay, now, what is the takeaway from this book since we're running out of time?
Here's the bottom line. If we don't pay attention to the kinds of things that are happening in the world today, and the American people don't engage themselves in this effort, then we will have the kinds of disasters that you have in this book. That's the very bottom line. This is a great story about. It's an intrigue. It's a thriller. It's a suspense book, but it's also a love story because I love my country, and I don't want it to turn out the wrong way. I hope it's not as predictive as it's turned out to be. You know, 1984 was a predictive book. If you go all the way back to Jonathan Swift with Gulliver's Travels, you can take Ian Ryan. All of those were predictive books because they looked at current events and they said this could happen. And you know what? Unfortunately, it is happening.
I've got 1 minute left. Where do you come up with these ideas? Because you write beautifully.
It's what I do for a living. It's what I have done for my life. It's the people I've spent time with and company. It's Mark Twain was asked, why do you write about the things you write about? You write about the things you know, and I know these things.
Mm-hmm. Oliver North, you're a great hero. You're a great friend. I just adore you, my friend. This book is called Heroes Proved. Heroes Proved. It's a fascinating book. I just started it. I'm going to finish it this weekend. Can you get it anywhere?
You can get it anywhere, but you can also get it signed at olivernorth.com. If you go to olivernorth.com, www.olivernorth.com, signed copies. I signed 500 of them over the course of the last 3 days, and they're all sitting there waiting to go. So if you want a signed copy for somebody who wants to stand up and realize what real American heroes are really like, this is that kind of inspiring story. It's a wake-up call for those who care about what happens to our country.
And by the way, Oliver North's signature is actually worth money, unlike mine.
No.
Oliver North, Heroes Proved. Hey, buddy, I'll see you at Costco again when I get a hot dog.
You and I. Thank you,
All right,
buddy.
be safe. God bless you. It's a beautiful book. It's a wonderful book. I just started it. I'm going to finish it this weekend. Oliver North's Heroes Proved. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I love this song. I can listen to it over and over again. I don't want to talk right now. Can we listen to this for a little bit? Jackie Wilson. Everybody. And higher. I better not sing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Ray Charles in America, just for you. Here we go.
Something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties. Now, wait a minute. I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He gave me crown not good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I Everybody sing this.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our week is officially over. Our weekend officially begins. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. Kill the terrorists. Find them before they find us. Thank you, America, my beloved audience. God bless you. Good night, Spritey. Good night, Griffey. Good night, Pepsi. Good night, America.